Coming back to the substance of that remark, what would we have needed that pretext for? Was it for recognizing Abkhazia and South Ossetia? If we were looking for a pretext, then we have the recognition of Kosovo as a perfect pretext. You know, when after Kosovo unilaterally announced its independence, and the United States and some others recognized that independence, and as far as we are concerned, in our entire analysis of history and international law, Abkhazia and South Ossetia had many more reasons to claim independence than the Kosovars. Then Russia could have gone ahead and recognized Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Even after, or in the course of this conflict, when it was being played out politically, we were not ruling out a diplomatic arrangement. You will recall that when President Sarkozy was in Moscow on the 12th of August, the first version of the Medvedev-Sarkozy plan, agreed between us, President Medvedev and President Sarkozy, had this clause, international discussions on the future political status of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Even then, we were prepared to go through a political process and allow Georgia a role in determining, in the determination of the future political status of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. I personally believe that it was a major diplomatic blunder of Mikhail Saakashvili when he rejected that clause, and it was dropped out of the final document after making a military and political blunder by invading Tskhinval and South Ossetia. He made this diplomatic blunder of rejecting the diplomatic lifeline, which was still extended to him by the Medvedev-Sarkozy arrangement. And then there were continued threats from the Georgians. There was instability in the region, and very strong, of course, sentiments coming from Abkhazia and South Ossetia for independence. Obviously, received some sympathy by our people and our political elite. So the whole thing, with inevitability, resulted in our recognition of Abkhazia and South Ossetia, because there was no way that we could allow this kind of uncertainty about the fate of the Abkhazian and South Ossetian people. Now, again, the final maybe thing about this statement, the word pretext. I mean, we are not responding to some statement of Mr. Saakashvili or to some minor accident which happened, somewhere on the border between Abkhazia and South Ossetia. We were responding to a massive use of military force, to multiple rocket launchers being fired at the sleeping, peaceful town of Tskhinval, to South Ossetian villages being overrun by the Georgian tanks, to Georgian tanks moving into Tskhinval, shooting at hospitals, shooting at churches and synagogues, shooting at schools and houses, destroying the city. We saw them fire at refugees who were trying to make it to North Ossetia, the way exactly they did back in the early 90s when they had the first conflict. They targeted not only the villages and towns, but they also targeted the only road which the refugees could use in order to try to escape. So that is not a pretext, in my vocabulary at least. This is a cause where you have no choice but to respond to this major provocation. In fact, I don't want to engage in sort of philological discussion, but in this statement, even the word invade, to me, is not accurate, because Russia did move in a peace enforcement operation. For a certain period of time, as everybody knows, we had to go even outside of the territory of South Ossetia, because we needed to make sure that those multiple rocket launchers are not going to continue to fire on the territory of South Ossetia and Tskhinval from outside of South Ossetia. But then, after 4 days, our president declared that the operation was over, and after all the arrangements were in place and Medvedev-Sarkozy plan was in place, we moved out of the territory of Georgia by the 1st of October of last year. So I have sort of many disagreements with this short statement of the Vice President.
Ambassador, just following up on Georgia, It's clear that the United States and Russia have different points of view regarding Kosovo and Georgia. How significant are these differences in the overall context of your relationship with the United States?
Well, as I analyze the results of the visit of President Obama to Moscow and his talks with President Medvedev and the various contacts which Foreign Minister Lavrov has had with Secretary Clinton, I think basically there is an understanding that there are some issues on which we disagree, and clearly the two I've mentioned are matters where we have opposing views, but then there is an understanding that we have a major vested interest in dealing with a vast area of international issues. Non-proliferation is one of them, strategic weapons another, and that we need to conduct a dialogue across a wide range of things, and there is a vast potential in bilateral relations between the United States and Russia. As you probably recall, one of the results of the Medvedev-Obama summit in Moscow was the establishment of a bilateral commission headed by the two presidents, coordinated by the two foreign ministers, which is going to try to explore the entire range of issues of our bilateral relations. So I'm comfortable that even though those matters where we disagree will continue to exist, most likely, we'll be able to cooperate on a number of other very important fronts.
And one final question. We know that China has been playing a more assertive role on the Security Council. It certainly was less active during the early days of the post-Cold War period, and now it seems to be growing in asserting itself and its views. How would you characterize the relationship between Russia and China?
Well, I think we have a great relationship, and certainly in the Security Council we regard our Chinese colleagues who are playing a very active and constructive role in the Security Council as our partners. We coordinate things. We try to vote together if it's possible. I mean, it's not a must, but in most of the cases we vote together. We try to support each other. So, I mean, we are not glued to each other. In some instances, we have more interest on some subjects. In some, they have more interest. But on all issues, we are treating each other with respect. And I'm extremely comfortable with our relations with China in the Security Council. And in fact, the progress of the relations between Russia and China over the past 20 years, I think one of the very big success stories of the Russian foreign policy, I think, frankly, underappreciated. We had a major sort of border problem, and it's a very long border, but we were able to entirely solve this issue so that we would have not even the smallest irritants for our long-term relationship in that. And that was a very, very important achievement, because even for technical reasons, it was not easy to tackle this entire thing. And we have extensive contacts at various levels with our Chinese colleagues. So this is a very important strategic relationship.
Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our guest today has been Ambassador Vitaly CHURKIN, Permanent Representative of Russia to the United Nations, and joining me today as co-interviewer is Vladimir KIKILO. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.